The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey, good afternoon, folks. I'd like to thank you for joining our presentation on Clean Address for PeopleSoft. You were specifically invited to this particular webinar because you are going to be attending the HUD Alliance, which will hopefully eventually see you guys at the show. My name is Eric Paillet. I'm the Marketing Director here at Runner Technologies. And today, Kevin Runner, the CEO of Runner Technologies, will be presenting on Clean Address for PeopleSoft. As you can see from our overview map, we've taken a quick mashup of our customer base. And as you can see, there's well over 600 customers throughout the United States in higher education using our product at Clean Address for their student information systems. So why use Runner Technologies in Clean Address? Well, it's pretty simple. It's because we're directly integrated into PeopleSoft through the real-time, batch, as well as national change of address. People use our product because of the ease of use through their functional users and because of the excellent support that we've given to our customers in the past. The low cost of ownership is really the selling point to this product, only because of the fact that your return on investment is almost immediate. So without hesitation, we're going to do the 45-minute webinar, and it will be presented by Kevin Runner, CEO of Runner Technologies. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. I'd like to thank everybody for being here today. Just to let everybody know the other schools that are in attendance today, we have, looks like Glendale, UNLV, SUNY. Well, actually, I have a lot of the email domains. There's actually over 26 schools that are in attendance on the webinar today, so I hope you come to our presentation at the HUD conference as well. I'd like to first start off with a poll, and just to see what kind of presentation you're mainly looking for today. And what you should be seeing on your screen is a little poll that asks the type of presentation you're looking for today. We can kind of custom tailor it if there's more of a technical or functional audience. It looks like the votes are coming in. The majority are looking for both a technical and functional presentation, and it looks like pretty equal, 14% for functional and technical. Okay, that's great, thanks. And one other poll I'd just like to ask here is which functional area you're part of today, to see if you're more of on the admissions, HR, finance, IT, advancement. We didn't have a place for other, so I apologize about that. Looks like the finance group is pretty alarmingly active there. IT is getting up. So we're about 46% IT, 30% finance, and 15% admissions, and 8% advancement. Okay, so thanks for that. You should be seeing the screen. If you do have any questions today, there is a chat section and a question section on the panel, so please feel free to use that. I have the other account execs, Jared Barassi and Jake Peister, in attendance today as well, and they'll be coming in. Okay, the audio access code states invalid. Tried the other number listed. The problem dialing in. It looks like one person may be having an access code issued dialing in. Jared, you want to go ahead and then make sure that you have the right access code for that? Hopefully everyone else is hearing the audio portion today. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. So what we've done with Clean Address in PeopleSoft, we're not new to higher education. Again, we have over 500 institutions that are using Clean Address within the higher education system throughout all aspects of the system, everything from admissions, HR, finance, all the way to alumni. What we've done with PeopleSoft is created a complete solution that encompasses all the different touch points in PeopleSoft. We're going to be covering an overview of what address verification is, go through some live demos, and go through a technical discussion as well. Again, just a brief about Runner Technologies. We've been around since 1997. The majority of our customers are in higher education. We've supported many different interfaces over the years, including PeopleSoft, Banner, Colleague, Advance. We also have an online course evaluation utility called SurveyDig, which many schools are using, that can replace a paper-based online course evaluation system or any homegrown course evaluation system that you may be using. If you'd like some more information on that, please let your account exec know. We're first going to start off with what is address verification? What is this whole concept? It's really a subset of data quality. So what we consider clean address to be is a data quality suite for all the contact information you have, meaning address, name, telephone, and email. So address verification basically takes an address as is, verifies that the address is deliverable. What's to verify it against? Well, it's against the post office database for your respective country. So if you're in the U.S., it's going against the USPS database, which has about 150 million delivery points in there. That's going actually down to the apartment number and house number level for verification. So if it's valid and verified against the post office database, great, but there may be still some correction that need to be done, such as correcting the directional, the street suffix, the apartment unit designator, something like that. And then standardizing is the last component. A lot of institutions have their own preferred standard for how they want the addresses to look, whether it's spelling out the word north, south, east, west, or spelling out street suffix, or even something as simple as where the apartment number goes, or the different types of addresses that you want to verify. You may not want to verify some campus addresses and dorm room addresses because you know that that data is not in the post office database, and you don't want to alert the user with a warning message every time. In any event, if it cannot uniquely verify an address against that post office database, we'll return a suggestion list and allow the user to kind of pick from that list to find out what the true address is. Besides the U.S. database, we do support a local database for Canada and also international address verification for over 240 countries and territories around the world. I got some slides on that in a bit here. So let's first start off with a little scenario here. You may have addresses in your system coming from all different places. Within the standard PeopleSoft environment, there's about 16 tables that contain batch information. Majority of those are suspense tables. So all your SAT, ACT scores that are coming in, GRE, GMAT, those type of test scores that get loaded into these suspense tables, you really have no control over who inputted that data originally. So there could be some very ugly data in there, if you will, some dirty data. So here's an example of 4 different addresses, street lines, that really are all the same, but they're spelled a little differently. Either the capitalization is off, the wrong unit designator is on there, such as unit apartment, and even with the city, state, and zip, you may have some errors there as well. So you may have the city name misspelled. Here's 4 different ways it's misspelled. Or you may have the incorrect zip code for that address. So in any event, the purpose of clean address and address checking verification is to take that data, verify, correct it, and standardize it to one consistent format every single time. So that way, no matter how that data is coming in, it'll be verified. We do take a holistic approach to address checking, so we do have a central address engine that goes in PeopleSoft that corrects addresses no matter where they're coming from. Any of the 220 components or pages that PeopleSoft has to collect address information, I have a slide of that in a bit, and any of those 16 tables in batch mode, any other custom homegrown pages or suspense tables that you've created as well can use that same interface and produce a consistent standard every single time. Now, when it comes to standards, this is basically one format that we're showing here with this Broken Sound Parkway Northwest Suite 620. That's maybe the official post office abbreviation standard for that, with a post directional showing up there. Now, when we talk about your institution standards, any given address could be formatted many different ways. So here's some examples where the suite may be listed on different parts of the address line, maybe on the same line as the address, the line below, the line above. You may choose to spell out the different components of the address, like the directional or street suffix, or maybe only spell out certain components, like just the directional. So there's many different ways to actually format the address. It's quite common for the advancement or alumni department to have a more formal address standard, like you see in this 4th address line, 4th address example here, where the different components are spelled out. They call that a formal address, and I guess over the years these donor organizations have found it's easier to solicit funds from people when they have a more formal looking address. Okay. Some of the benefits you expect to see from a system like this, well, improving your data quality. So again, the Clean Address core engine has components for address, name, telephone, and email. We call that ANTI if you say telephone instead of phone. So those are the 4 pieces of contact information that you would want to do some sort of checking on when you're collecting that information on an individual. Speeding up the data entry process is good, but with self-service these days, you really don't care how long it takes them if you have some efficiencies there. The biggest thing here is fewer errors. If you can reduce the amount of errors coming into your database by almost 100%, you're doing pretty good. This is going to lead to a lot of back-end savings. So it's reducing your cost of mailings, which can have undelivered and reducing your undelivered and return mail, faster mail delivery. So institutions are seeing about a 2 orders of magnitude reduction in return mail. To put some numbers behind that, if you have 3,000 pieces of return mail in a given period, and you have all the postage and manual human effort spent in dealing with that, that number can be reduced down to 30. Much more manageable size. So 2 orders of magnitude is big when it comes to cost savings on the back end. And you also have the people's time and spent tracking down these bad addresses to find the correct address and inputting the new address and sending out that piece of correspondence again. So whether it's parking permits, financial aid checks, acceptance or rejection letters, diplomas, transcripts, whatever that piece of mail may be, you're sending it for a valid reason, so there's somebody who's going to have to deal with that piece of mail when it comes back and it's non-deliverable to try to get that back out again. And self-service is a whole other topic as well. A lot of institutions have chosen to not allow their students to do self-service on the web because of the quality of the data that their students would be giving. You have no control within PeopleSoft. There's no built-in standardization or checking that PeopleSoft has to even capitalize the different address components. So with Clean Address, you can make that happen automatically. And that can, if you have a centralized staff that deals with those self-service address entries to make sure that they're in the institution standards, then you can retransition that person to some other aspect of the department. Okay, there was a Gartner study that basically said that databases without address verification contain about 14 to 22% of undeliverable addresses. So that's quite significant. And again, our holistic view of the situation is the entire institution can benefit from improved data quality. Everything from admissions, student records, advancement, HR, you have your W-2, benefits mailings, payroll, job applicants, even finance, accounts receivable, accounts payable, maybe even institutional research. So we include basically the verification in every single aspect of PeopleSoft. Now, this is an enterprise solution, so even if you're using another application for different departments, such as the housing department or maybe a parking permit application, you can use some of the components of Clean Address to verify those systems as well. So why is mail non-deliverable? Well, there could be various reasons. There's different components of an address, like the apartment, directional, and street suffix. They may be missing or invalid. So Clean Address can automatically correct some of those things. Obviously, if you're missing an apartment number, that's a very important piece of information that's missing. So in that case, Clean Address can identify that and notify the person. If the address is misspelled, it can automatically correct that. It has a very strong phonetic engine. So in the majority of the cases here, 85 to 90% of the time, the Clean Address will automatically correct the data, the address, and return a valid address. The other 10 to 15% of the time, the user will get a warning message, as you see in the demo here. The last reason a piece of mail may be non-deliverable, which you may not think of, is the person's moved over a year ago. Well, the Post Office has some really good data with their National Change of Address database that identifies where the person moved, what type of move it was, whether it was an individual or family, the date that they moved, and what their new address is. So we can actually run your address list through NCOA processing to find out where that person's moved to and the date that they moved. And we have an integrated process with PeopleSoft to pull the data back out, load it back into PeopleSoft, do all the reporting, and process that data back into the main address table in PeopleSoft. We do email validation as well. That'll basically check the email address for valid syntax, do a DNS lookup, and allows you can customize that functionality by email type. So basically what that's doing is looking at the domain name of the email address, making sure that's a valid emailable domain, so that way you can produce, prevent some data entry errors for the email. Two different approaches we're going to be looking at here in the demo. So bear with me, and we're going to jump into some live examples. There's, well, obviously it says banner. This should have been PeopleSoft. I apologize about that. But it's, we have two different approaches, real-time and batch integration. So the real-time seamless verification, basically validating the addresses at the point of entry. So literally as you type them in, it's going to be checking the address. What's nice about this is you don't have to hit a hotkey to open up another address entry window. The address verification happens automatically without user intervention. The users only notify when there's a problem with the address. So it doesn't even say clean address or runner technologies anywhere in the address checking. It's like a validation formula for the address screen that's happening automatically. It looks like built-in PeopleSoft functionality. It's very smooth and seamless. Happens automatically, and we do have a way that they can override that if necessary for the non-self-service users. So essentially no training is required, very easy to roll out. The batch verification is basically updating a group of addresses inside the table, like your PS addresses table or any of the other 15 suspension tables that are included with PeopleSoft. If you're like every other institution, you probably have created your own suspension tables for different fields or files that come through, and you can very easily create additional batch procedures for those your own homegrown suspension tables as well. Our batch procedure is very cookie cutter, just a matter of changing the table name and a couple column names, and now you can do batch verification for those tables as well. What's nice about this is it's all done directly inside the database. So you don't have to deal with extracting the data out, verifying it, and loading it back in again. It's just as simple as kicking off a job within PeopleSoft to verify that data. So it makes it very easy for the end users to actually kick off. We actually do store a lot of other information about the address in the database too, such as the address status code or error code, whether it's deliverable or not. We store the latitude and longitude, the date it was verified, and a couple other things like that. Okay, so now it's demo time. And let me just check with Jared if have we had any questions so far? Okay, he's giving me a head shake, so we're proceeding on. So what I'm opening up now is our PeopleSoft application. And I'm going to go ahead and this is the Student Administration /HR. This is version 9.0. We do support all versions of PeopleSoft up to 9.2, including the latest versions of PeopleTools. So I'm going to sign in with our PeopleSoft application here. You will see there's a clean address menu item here. This is for the batch verification, which we'll get to in a minute. I'm going to first start off with self-service and go down to personal information and drill into emergency contacts. Again, the address verification, let's see, it looks like we're not actually seeing the screen. Let me share that particular application here. I apologize about that. Let's see, are we seeing the emergency contact page? Let's see, you should be seeing an emergency contact page. This is in Firefox. Let me apologize about the technical issue. We should be seeing the live demo, but apparently we are not. Let me share the whole screen again. You're seeing the screen now, Jared? Yeah, your screen, but not your demo. You're not seeing the demo. Okay. Let me try to give this one more attempt here. So the application. Okay, I do apologize. This looks like a functionality in the our screen sharing that we're running into. Let me open up the Internet Explorer and see if that will work. Okay, so we should, let's see if we were seeing that now. Show the PeopleSoft application. Yeah, it looks like that's coming up now. Okay, so we're going to start off with signing in as, let's see, Falls, should see PeopleSoft. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and sign in with PeopleSoft again. And then drill it down and, okay, we're actually in emergency contact. So basically what we did is we went into self-service, we went into personal information, and emergency contacts. Okay, and then we're going to click on edit address. So we don't even need to put in the person's name at this point, just to show the functionality that we're talking about here. So I'm going to first start off with an example that that's a dirty address, but we'll be able to clean it automatically, and then we'll get into some other variations of this. I'll put in 6530 Rogers, number 31, and you can either enter in the city and state or the postal code. So for the power user in PeopleSoft, you may want to jump right to the postal code. I'll enter 33432. That's the wrong postal code for that address in Boca Raton, Florida, but it is a zip code in Boca Raton, Florida. So as I tab out of that field, you see that the address is instantaneously changed. Now we happen to pick the standard for this particular example to spell out the directional, spell out the street suffix, and include the suite or apartment on the same address line. So that, again, is something you can choose for your school, what that variation would be, if you want to have change the standard a little bit. So it did pull back the correct city and state, or province if you're in Canada. Pull back the correct county information. This county is actually accurate down to the house number level. So if you have a case where the zip code spans a county border, you may have multiple counties associated with the zip code. This does have the true county for that address. Let's cancel out and go back in again. Onto the same address again, but I'm going to use a business name as well for this case. So I'll put Runner Technologies and do 6530 W. West Rogers, and I'll put number 31 on the third address line here. And instead of the zip code or postal code, I'll use the city and state this time. I'll misspell the city, Boca Raton, Florida, FL. And now as I tab out of there, it is still fully verifying the address and keeping that extra address information up top. So in this case, the company name. If I had removed this company name out, or if I had even started putting the address in on address line 2, it will be justified upwards so that the address elements are towards the top. Now, when it comes to NCOA processing, just as kind of a little aside here, we have a specialized process for PeopleSoft NCOA processing. Most of the NCOA process is just 2 address lines. That's what the post office has. So we actually have some special coding inside our NCOA that will keep any extra address information in there and justify those 3 address lines. So if you have 3 address lines filled with data, for the NCOA processing, it'll grab the 2 most relevant address lines to find the correct location where that person is living. Okay, let's try another example here. I like this one. It's all numbers, 239349, and zip code 33432, which is also incorrect. But here again, very sparse information. It's able to fully verify that address. Now, the next case I want to try is where we have some sort of issue. So we'll pick a new address this time, 1515 Federal. Again, it was misspelled, Boca Raton, Florida. Now, as I tab out of the state field this time, it's not able to verify that address and correct it automatically because there's multiple issues with it. One, the city's misspelled, and the street is coming back with multiple matches. So you see the warning message coming up here. So you can see that there's both a North Federal Highway and a South Federal Highway that's applicable at that address. So now in this case, the only option the person has is to ask that individual if they're still on the phone, or look back at the application that they're typing this information from, to try to find out what the correct information is. Because without any additional input, we're really not sure what the address is. So I'll put in North Federal, or N period. It does change it to North Federal Highway now, but now we have another message that came back that's saying the suite or apartment is missing, and here's all the different apartment numbers that exist. So this is that delivery point validation kicking in, basically going down to the smallest unit level for an address to say this apartment number or unit is not valid. No matter where I put in that unit designator, such as address line 3, it'll automatically justify it, again, to meet whatever standards I have. Okay. Jerry, do we have any questions so far? You didn't get the shake of the head, so we're good. We're carrying on here. Great. So I'm going to try something different now. I want to pick a different country. I want to use Germany, which is the country code is DEU for Deutschland, if anybody knows the German. I'm going to use an address 132 Leopoldstrasse and come down and just enter the city. I don't know the postal code in this case, and that's actually Munich. So as I tab out of that field, it will actually change it to Munich, Bavaria for the city. So it puts the state, the province code in here. And also it puts the 132 at the end of the address line. So in formatted the Leopoldstrasse correctly. So in Germany, they actually put the house number at the end, and their postal code is at the beginning. So there's about, again, 240 countries and territories that we'll verify against. This is with a web service option, so you don't have to have the entire postal database for the entire world at your location. You can basically have this go through the web service to verify those 240 countries and territories. There's only about 26 that have good postal data. Looks like my message screen sharing is now followed. So this is still running. Okay, so again, there's only about 26 countries that have valid postal data. The other countries may just verify down to the city level or the postal code level. Okay, so let's move on to the batch processing. Again, this address entry page will work anywhere in PeopleSoft where an address is set up. Basically, the way that PeopleSoft architected this allowed us to do the address verification on a couple of pages. There is some country-specific pages, about a dozen of those, and then the main U.S. or default address entry page. But the different components that use that page all share the same subpage in PeopleSoft, so we get that economy of scale with that. Okay, so real-time verification is important, but batch processing is equally as important. There's no such thing as a one-time batch update. You'll want to do frequent batch updates to make sure that the data that exists in your database is still valid. So in this case, let's go ahead and do a search, see if we maybe create a, this is basically using the batch processing within PeopleSoft. So you start out by basically creating a run control. I'll just call it CLN, for example. And there's several parameters you can pick from. You can choose, obviously, a number of records you want to verify, certain address types you want to pick from, so that's selectable from a suggestion list here if you only wanted to do home or mailing addresses, for example. You can choose to go so many days back if you have a very large address database and you only want to verify the addresses that have been entered within the past couple years. There is an option to only update unverified records, so that's the Delta mode. That will verify records that have not been verified yet. There is an option to skip international addresses. That's pretty much a billing option, so that way you don't use up all your international web service transactions when you're doing a batch update. And also in PeopleSoft, there's inactive addresses that are stored in the database. By default, we will not verify the inactive addresses because they're inactive. They may not be needed anymore. But we do have the option to put that in as well. The batch processing will run about 1 million records per hour, and you have a couple options with that. You can actually update that existing record in the PS addresses table, or have it create a new record, insert a new record in there if something has changed. So if you've never done address checking before and you don't have zip+4 than any of your addresses, you can basically expect your address table to double in size if you add a new record for the batch process. If you update the existing record, you're really just standardizing that location. The location isn't changing. But that is an option you can choose from. Going back to change of address processing again, that's a separate process, but the change of address processing, when it's loading the data in, always adds new records into the table. Okay, and you basically kick that off with the process monitor, and that would run in the background, and then there's several reports that we provide that will show you additional information. So let's jump back into the presentation again here. Looks like we have about another 15 minutes. I want to make sure we cover any of the technical questions as well. Let me jump into the screen. Okay, and so now we're actually on the back in the PowerPoint presentation. You should be seeing a list of all the PeopleSoft pages we support. Again, there's about 220 pages altogether, or components really, if you will. So with these components, these all have that address subpage on it, and they basically get the address verification for free because we included it in the project file in that subpage. So we do provide a project file from the technical perspective. That's how you load the clean address integration inside PeopleSoft. There's a project file for the real-time and for the batch and for the different versions of PeopleSoft that are out there. Now with each of these pages, you can pick and choose which pages you want to do verification on as well. So even though they're using the same address subpage, there's some logic that goes in the page people code. You can choose if you only wanted to turn it on for for example, student administration, NHR, and maybe not for admissions or something like that. You do have some choices in how you want to turn on that address verification. We have some screenshots of what we were just looking at in here. I'm going to skip through those. You'll be sent a copy of the presentation for reference as well. We have another utility called Clean Entry. Clean Entry is used for any closed system, as we call it. A closed system would be like a parking permit application or housing application that you don't have access to the source code or ability to change those screens, but you still want to do address checking on those screens. So Clean Entry is an application that is invoked with a hotkey, and then allows you to put the address into Clean Entry, and it pushes it back to that calling application. So if you have, like again, the parking permit application, you hit a hotkey, it opens up, type it in, and it sends it back to the parking permit application. So that is available additionally if you have that situation. Okay, so for real time, we pretty much covered the standard tables, standard pages or components we support, any closed systems we support. Now, there is another situation where if you have a homegrown PeopleSoft page or application that a lot of institutions do, maybe you replace the admissions application with another homegrown version of yours. We've schools that have done that. So it is very easy to actually add this clean address functionality, like you see here, into any of your homegrown pages. It's really just adding a bit of HTML area on the page and then updating some page people code with that. Really what it does is it populates that HTML area with the call information. We are using the entire PeopleSoft stack here with the application server and all, so it's using an iScript to go through and verify the address through the database. But it's very easy to extend this to any homegrown system you have as well. As far as batch verification, here again is the 16 tables I was referencing earlier that we support out of the box. Now, most schools may have their own suspense tables, suspense files that they've created as well. And again, these are very cookie-cutter batch procedures that you can apply to any other homegrown system that you have. The biggest benefit here is we update the addresses in place. So think of it this way. Inside the database, whether it's Oracle or SQL Server, we have a built-in interface. So in Oracle, it's PL/SQL, and SQL Server, it's Transact SQL. And that basically is an API for verifying addresses within the database. And we basically take advantage of that from the front end to do the real-time checking and the batch end to have that in-database batch verification. This is a copy of the address page we just talked about for the batch verification. So after you've done a batch verification, or maybe when you're in development or test mode, you want to see some reports to see how good of a job did Clean Address do with cleaning up the data and adhering to the university standards. So there's several reports for that. We have an address error summary in detail, duplicate addresses report, compare address changes, which shows before and after what an address looks like when you're doing a batch verification, and then a radius search, which uses some of this latitude and longitude coordinate information. Just want to show a sample of a few of these reports. The address error summary report will basically show all the different error codes that would occur in that address on the address records. There's about a dozen or so common ones out there, like unknown street, range error, apartment number missing or invalid. The very, very common ones. There's a more descriptive version of this error code as well that could be referenced if something's missing. Like that may be the only training aspect you would let the users know about, like when they get multiple matches or range error, what to do in those situations. But the suggestion list that comes back for those error codes is kind of self-explanatory as well. So we still like to say there's really no end-user training that's required. The report compare address changes. This is really useful for especially doing initial testing and development to see when you put these rules in place to expand the street suffix or control where the apartment number goes, to test that out against your live data. So this is basically the same as somebody entering in all these addresses real time, but you're just doing it in batch. So again, the same engine is being run from both a real time or batch, or even the NCOA perspective. Same engine is being used in all those locations. So you can see here where the person may have left off a street suffix or put the apartment number on the wrong line or capitalized some things, and it shows you after the verification what it looks like. This is a good way to kind of see what the data standard in the system is already. You know, unless you have a data standards committee that's kind of dictated that and you know what the data standard would be. Looking at the existing data is a good way to see what a department is doing. Okay, geocoding. Geocoding basically gives you a latitude and longitude coordinate for an address. So what can you do with that information? Well, some business cases that a school may ask would be, how many students live within a 5 or 10 mile radius of the university? Or, you know, heaven forbid, there's a natural disaster in a certain area, and you want to find out all the students, employees that live within a couple mile radius of that incident that happened. From an alumni perspective, you may be having an alumni function and invite all the alumni within 50 miles of that event. So you can use it for all these type of radius type searches. There's several different levels of geocoding that we provide. We have actually free geocoding built into the product that goes down to the center of a zip code. A zip code is about 3 to 4 miles in diameter, so you will have some error there between 6 to 8 miles when you're doing distance calculations. But we have a more accurate geocoder down to the zip plus 4 level, which is the center of about the size of a city block or a couple hundred yards. And we also have rooftop level, which is the geopoints option. So the next thing you can do with this data, this latitude and longitude data, to visualize it, is load it into something like Google Earth Professional with their mashups. And here's an example of what that data may look like. So you can picture this being your applicants for the school, the new kids coming in, the new freshman class, and have a picture of where they're coming from all over the country. Basically loading in that data, and it'll open up real-time in Google Earth Professional. You can color code and based upon the data, color and change different icons that are associated with each of those different students, or it could be alumni within the that have graduated or other constituents. So an alumni director could use this when they're out on the road and drilling down and see where are all the alumni business addresses, you know, in a certain area, and kind of plan their work week that week. When you click on these different icons in Google Earth, it'll also show any information that you push back to them. So Clean Address facilitates this type of usage of the geocoding data by providing that latitude and longitude for instant real-time update. So without that, without the latitude and longitude pre-appended on the addresses, Google Earth would be able to still show the addresses, but it would just take a lot longer because you'd have to basically verify each of those addresses as it's running through, and then you still don't have the latitude and longitude. It doesn't provide that as an output. So that's kind of a pretty neat feature. Now the data enhancement services that I've been alluding to throughout the presentation with change of address processing, this is a side component of data quality. So we like to look at it as a 3-part pie. You have your real-time verification that's going on inside all these 220 screens, your batch processing that's going on in your 16-plus tables, including your own suspense tables, and then the change of address processing where you're keeping that data up to date. So Clean Address is checking the deliverability of an address, not looking at the person's name, where change of address processing is looking at the person's name and address and finding out the date that they've moved, what the new address is, and what type of move it was, whether it was an individual, family, or business. We can also append other information to that list as well, such as the individual's specific phone number, whether it's a cell phone or a land-based phone, email address, and other type of demographic fields as well. There's hundreds of different demographic fields out there. So the alumni or advancing department may find some usage for some of these things, like presence of kids, whether they rent or own. There's hundreds of these additional fields that they can pick from when they're doing this processing. So statistically, 18% of the population moves every year. The Post Office does maintain this data in their NCOA linked database. What we've done for PeopleSoft is created a pre-built interface for extracting the data out in the best format out of PeopleSoft, created a staging table or suspense file, if you will, for loading that data back in, created a whole reporting process, and the program to actually push it back into the PS addresses table on return. So what's nice about that too is we're going to rerun that address through Clean Address again before it's actually loaded back into the database. Because if you think about it, the Post Office doesn't know what your institution's data standard is. So when it does the change of address processing, all you're going to get back is the Post Office abbreviations and the Post Office standards. But to make it make it right with your institution standards again, we need to re-verify that address to repopulate it back into the correct format that you're looking for, such as position of apartment, directional, and street suffix. There is I call it the Big Brother option. This is the multi-source change of address. So it's amazing the information that these big companies store out there on us. But if you go to change your credit card address or utility bill, cell phone bill, insurance address, these companies are compiling and dogpiling this information and making that available to services like this so that you can find those hard-to-reach people. So this would be used for those people that you consider lost. Maybe they skipped out on some billing in the school, or maybe they're a hard-to-find alumni, and you're not sure where they're at. This may be a case where they did not file a change of address request with the post office, but they changed their credit card address. So in that case, that can be an indicator that that person's moved, and you can find out what their address is. So pretty scary, but useful at the same time. There is a Canadian change of address component that works for Canadian data. We talked about the list enhancement options already with consumer cell phone append and email append. So we can add this other information onto those lists. Apologies, are there any questions there, Jared? Got the head shake again? No questions so far. So I must be answering everything as we're going along, or I must be on mute. So we're going to talk about the architecture here. Clean Address has what we call a service-oriented enterprise architecture. So the enterprise architecture basically means 100% availability for address checking services. Clean Address is an on-premise process, a server process. It does not need its own server. It can go on any existing application server, even your database box. It basically requires about 2 gigabytes of data, which is nothing in these days, for storing the post office database. It does work with both Oracle and SQL Server PeopleSoft instances, and you can set up redundant Clean Address servers to handle the load. With Oracle, we're basically making a connection to Oracle to read the transaction requests. For SQL Server, it's actually using a web service model. The service-oriented piece basically means that you can have a single instance of these Clean Address servers in your data center and support all the data, all the databases within your network. So again, this is not a hosted Clean Address server. This is on-premise. You can run through unlimited transactions through that. The pricing is done on your FTE, your student FTE. So with that, you have unlimited transactions against this. So if you want to test the heck out of it against your development test database, or you have a professor that's in statistics that wants to run 50 million addresses through and do some statistical analysis on it, you're able to do that as much as you want. Drilling down a little bit deeper into the architecture, we provide packages or stored procedures, depending on the architecture, that are very easily updatable. But there is one particular package. It's called a user exit package that allows you to customize your data standards. So on the user exit package, there's a pre and post transactional triggers that basically allow you to control when address verification should be done and what the data standard should be. Just another little note on the technical side, there is a shadow record that we create. It's called a PeopleSoft, Clean Address PeopleSoft record that contains all that extra information that you want to store, but PeopleSoft doesn't have fields for that in their system, such as the carrier route, delivery point, check digit, the postnet barcode, the date it was verified, the error code, suggestion list, latitude, longitude. These are all things that you would need if you want to qualify for postage discounts, or do the Google Earth mashup, or just run the reports to see which addresses are invalid. So this shadow record is updated in batch mode. So you would have a daily batch process that would be running that would be picking up any unused or unverified records on a daily basis and creating that shadow record so you can run reports off of that. Talked about the international verification already. Let's see, I think the slide got frozen there. There we go. As far as maintenance, the updates come out every 2 months. We do have a monthly option that's available. So we actually get the data from the post office monthly. Most institutions just want to update it bi-monthly, every 2 months. It takes about 15 minutes to put in place, basically zero downtime. this is a great opportunity to do a batch verification of that existing data again, just in case something changed, like the zip code, zip +4, or a street name. And we are working right now on a self-updating utility that will actually automatically update this postal data as well. So even today, it's not very extensive, just about 15 minutes every 2 months to put the new postal data in place. Pricing, I'm going to defer this to your account executive, but it is based upon the student FTE. And I just want to pause here. It looks like we're at the end of our 45 minutes. We had a little David Letterman top 10 features, but we'll just kind of skip to the summary slide here. In essence, Clean Address will save you time and money. Save you money by reducing and eliminating your undelivered mail, and improve the quality of your database, reducing all that administrative effort and dealing with those trays of return mail and all the issues surrounding that. And Clean Address is the only 100% seamless real-time and batch engine within PeopleSoft, including the NCOA processing. And it is very affordable pricing for institutions of every size. So I guess, Jared, was there any questions that came in? Can you unmute if anyone has any? Let me see if we can unmute, see if anybody has any questions. We are at the 45-minute mark. If you need to drop off, we understand. We want to be cognizant of the time, but we can stay around for any questions following this. Let's see, to these. Just going to go through and unmute everybody. If there's any questions, please go ahead and.
This is in terms of more or less fun, more or less headache. Banner or PeopleSoft.
There is no fun for either of them.
Oh, go on. You love program.
I can say so there's a little side talk there, so we'll go ahead and mute everybody. If you do have a question, we'll account exec can kind of relay that on. We'll go ahead and I guess wrap it up for the day. But I'd like to thank everybody for the time, and we look forward to seeing you at the HUD conference. Please stop by our Surf Shack. We're going to have a fun little contest there, a Plinko game. We can win some fun prizes. We can't miss us in the exhibit hall. We're the only ones with an old rusted barn shack with a thatched roof in the middle of the exhibit floor. So we'll look forward to seeing you there, and thank you again for your time.